Yeah, we're live.
Hey,
Excellent.
Just like that.
Okay, let's just wait for to come back.
Yeah, I'm going to get the timer out just in case. I think it's 5 minutes of presenting and 5 minutes of Q&As afterwards.
Yeah, we can be a little bit flexible, eh? Excellent.
That's the word of the moment.
Cool. Okay, we're recording. We're live. Ben, are you ready with the timer?
I am ready, but I think I'm good. Angel, as a co-host, was going to do the privilege. I am primed and ready as well. So, no worries.
Okay, cool, guys. Well, you both can do it. That's excellent. Yep, I think we're good to go. When you're ready, Peter.
Susan?
Oh, I think we've lost Peter.
Oh no, we've lost Peter.
No.
Has anyone else been watching Westworld?
Did you want me to go? And
yeah, let's swap because Peter's probably having trouble connecting on the beach.
Yeah, true. Okay, Dan,
things
you go first, my friend.
Things might go wrong, guys. No.
Yeah.
Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, should I get going? All right, so this project is CH2O Africa. CH2O is a token, clean water, H2O. So I'll talk real quick about the mission statement, problem, solution, our kind of a strategy and what to do for growth, the funding that I asked for in idea scale, and then mission Q&A. So we're bringing clean water to Africa through transparency and alignment with donors. So right now, estimated 850,000 to 1 million people die across Africa every year from drinking clean water. Of course, there's a lot of other sanitation issues that are associated with it, as well as boiling water and things like that to remove contaminants, puts a lot of CO2 into the space from a carbon credit perspective, from a carbon offset perspective, looking at global warming effects too. And so a big issue with current charities is there's oftentimes a lack of accountability, transparency with where money's being spent, and funding. When you're looking at roughly 33% of actually wells that charities have gone into Africa and installed have actually broken down within about a year. So 33% of them, and people don't really realize that a lot. And this is maybe subjective. There's some resources there where the information came from. I'm not saying all charities are like this, but there's definitely charities out there that have good intention, go install wells, and they break down. They don't have the resources to go and bring them back up live again, or they maybe have contamination effects to them as well. I think currently there's 22% of the water sources on average across the continent are broken down or contaminated. An interesting stat is just the increase in charity donations was 4% across normal Americans and 24% across corporations. So you see a larger increase from 2020 to 2021 in corporate donations versus individuals. So what we're looking at doing is a charity that's built on blockchain technology to deliver, as I mentioned several times, transparency, accountability, and funding. And how we're going to look at this is the solution involves obviously blockchain technology, which is just amazing for so many different reasons, as I'm sure a lot of us are aware of. For one, the first step would be efficiency with the charity that's working overseas and whatnot. The cross-border transaction fees, often that's a quick, easy kind of savings on some of those currency exchanges, as well as a big part is charity fraud, so transparency. With the way that wallets work and the blockchain works, you can trace basically all funds, and you can see the treasury fund and where that money is being spent and who it's going to. And if you're aware of the concepts of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, this is something that may evolve into something very similar to that, where you can have a treasury fund and you can see where things are being spent, and there's even a voting aspect as well. And then fundraising, of course, with tokens and NFTs and digital assets. It's very quick and easier to raise capital, as we've seen millionaires in these NFT projects in the past year. They raise capital very quickly, and then also bring into effect the carbon credit aspect, which I think will be huge in the environment. And so, what I think is a really interesting application for this project is an idea about twinning technology and digital twin NFTs. So how this would work is that every well in Africa would be installed with a flow meter or two, and they would come with consensus with each other and record the value of how much water is coming out of the well. It would be twinned to a digital representation, and everyday people, the community of where that well is being installed, would come up with some of the artwork for it, and that data of whoever holds that digital NFT, that twin NFT of that real world well, basically receives a steady stream of tokens, CH2O tokens, and that steady stream of tokens is every gallon of water coming into the well. And so you have an instant social proof, social accountability aspect of the amount of good being done from the well that you purchased across, overseas over the Atlantic. So what's really interesting about that is then you're constantly gaining these tokens. And so what can you do with that? What we say with our tokenomics? Basically, you can look at creating milestone badges of the amount of clean water brought, and almost an idea of how many lives are impacted or saved. And then as well as a huge aspect with brand partnerships and businesses. That's where you look at verified data that can give you the carbon credit potential for the offset that would have generally been boiled water and created CO2 and whatnot, as well as, of course, brand partnerships with the charity itself. You can see that the way they can flex or instantly show the amount total across all the different wells or whatever, where they're at with the amount of clean water that's being pumped out. And then, of course,
hey Dan, just want to let you know that 5 minutes or for presentation are up. You can move on to your Q&A.
Gotcha. Well, yeah. Well, anyways, the last part then is just the utility and licensing other data as well with researchers, maintenance, keeping them up to date. Got some other here things as well, the proof of concept process of it with the idea of how we grow social media, the DAO, community collab, dropping it like a noun style with an auction every week, and partnering with sponsors.
Okay, time's up. Time's up. Perfect.
So,
well,
what do you guys got for questions?
Yeah, maybe if you guys have got questions, you can just raise your hand and then we'll go around and let everyone ask a question. Okay, Sebastian, you can go first. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, one of our members at NFT DAO is working with professors at the University of Arkansas to precisely create an incentive system for farmers to save water, right, for the crops and that kind of stuff. Similar to this idea, right, using an IoT device to precisely measure how much water is being taken out of the well. And it has an added urgency that, I mean, I've never been to Arkansas, but for what he has explained, the water basin that is at the underground, right, wherever it is, when it is depleted, it creates obviously a hole, a vacuum, and that means that it's gonna sink the earth right on top, right, and that's also creating a lot of problems. So they need to monitor that too. So my question would be, how can you be sure that they're not gonna tamper with the sensor or to get the rewards while still getting the water or overutilizing the water sources? And if you want to contact with him, you can write me at my email. Is there in the chat? Maybe you guys can talk.
Sweet. Yeah, no, definitely a great question. I think one thing for sure was not having one single device measure the flow, looking at two separate devices reporting it in a different way, and that they would have to come to an agreement of tolerance value on what that flow is before sending it through the hardware oracle into the smart contract for that data. So to be able to hack into that device, one might be actually more of a physical flow meter and one might be more of the ultrasonic, more of the digital, and having them match up before they send that value through will be a big one for verifying security aspects of that for sure. That was one of the things I brought through there.
Okay, excellent. That was a great question, Sebastian. Thank you very much. Next, we have Peter. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how far you are with your NFT smart contract and how you intend to, when you say hardware oracle, like how you're going about publishing that to the Cardano blockchain.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I had a meeting that I know just actually recently with Chainlink that they aren't fully there yet with their integration of hardware oracles. And so it would have to be something more custom developed in Haskell, using APIs and actually your own completely separate external adapter into it. And that has not been fleshed out or completed yet. And one of the things I was going to mention too with related to that question is that the project plan itself, the full build of everything in the whole year, I had at 500,000 with all the different developing and things like that. And that's also including obviously getting more money from other other sponsors and partnerships. But looking at possibly leveraging more just a proof of concept initial build out for a full month as a lower ask. When I was looking through the idea scale, I've never done it before. They wanted to have the full everything, but I wasn't keen on developing a proof of concept first, which has not been done yet. That's the very first step. But that's a great question. Yeah.
So given where you're at, then I think you'd be really interested in the links I just posted. So I'm the lead on one of the co-leads on the Landano project, but my other Cardano-based project is called OrgFax, and that's designing an open source Oracle publication component for the Cardano blockchain. We've done a lot of R&D already, and we'll be open sourcing that, so it can save you a lot of development time to implement it. It's like a design pattern and free software code to do that. So you can either implement your own Oracle, or you can talk to us because we've got a bunch of other value things for the OrgFax Oracle, and we're very much keen on doing this kind of like use cases. Like we're not really interested in price feeds for dexes. It's more about Earth data and hardware oracles that we'd like to move into that direction for OrgFax. And there's some really interesting additional value-added features like a permanent archiving of the source documents and so forth. So if you could take a look, there's more details in that little technical update we posted last week.
Very awesome. Actually, I saw that in the main chat, and I already took a peek at it about 20 minutes ago. But yeah, 100%. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Excellent. Lots of good connections coming here. So I also have a question, Dan. You said before that 33% of the wells are breaking down within 1 year. What's normally the circumstances behind that?
I think it's a circumstance of the initial investment into some of these wells that get installed, the revisiting aspect or going back to the community to fix them. I know there's a huge impact. A lot of other charities focus more on having the community learn a lot more of the maintenance practices and what they need to do to keep the well up and running. But oftentimes, if there's a failure of a certain pump or a certain aspect of the well that they are unable to fix, then they're relying on someone to come back out to repair it. And sometimes the communication is missing there to get that out there. And sometimes the funding's not there anymore from that particular charity to come back out there, from what I understand. But yeah, it's surprising statistic to me that I found that.
Alrighty, guys, time to move on for the next presentation.
Okay, excellent. Dan, Peter, are you with us now?
I am. I'm here. I'm back. Yeah, I'm.
And
hopefully the
contacts here, by
connection
all
will
means, reach out to me. Happy to speak with anyone.
Thank
yeah,
you.
well, I'll definitely reach out to you, Dan. I put my contact as well. I think we should talk about the Oracle options that we can help each other out with.
Totally. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Super.
Yeah, put your email in the chat. Okay, awesome, Peter. On to you. You have your partner sharing the screen. Please go ahead.
That's right. Go ahead, Christian.
Can you not view it? I thought I was sharing it already.
I think Dan needs to disable first.
Here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, super. So yeah, I'm Peter Van Gaarderen, and I'm one of the co-founders for the Landano project. Here's all our contact details. Next slide. So we've got a Fund 9 proposal in where our problem statement is that Landano is a groundbreaking real-fi DApp that is notarizing traditional land rights, enabling unbanked Africans to leverage DeFi opportunities on the Cardano blockchain. And we want to take the results of our testnet MVP and our pilot projects and push it to Cardano mainnet and make this a real life impact project. So we have a Fund 9 proposal in, there's a link to it on the top left. And the end result will be that we will be actually minting legally admissible land right records NFTs on the Cardano mainnet. And we need to move our MVP technology to decentralized components. Next slide. So the underlying problem that we are addressing is that around the world, there's approximately 1 billion people who have a legitimate right to land, but don't have the documentation to prove it. And that is happening for a number of reasons. The systems that are in land registry systems that are in place are expensive to use for end users. They're often mismanaged. They're confusing to use. They're not in the native tongue or language of the people that need to use them. Access to them is far away, requiring multi-day travel sometimes. And in a lot of jurisdictions, there's a lot of corruption around the land registry systems, requiring bribes or people doing double spending or land transactions behind people's back. And this presents a major blocker to the upward financial mobility for marginalized people, particularly in the global South. Next slide, please. Because what has been shown through a number of research projects is that once you have a legitimate land right document, you can show that you've got a legitimate right to land. You are then able to leverage that to do different things, such as apply for mortgages. So what we're working on is creating legally admissible land right documents that are minted cheaply and conveniently as NFTs on the Cardano blockchain via a very simple to use smartphone DApp for their end users. Next slide, please. So legally admissible is a very key word there, because what we are doing is we're making sure that the documents we are created are not just some fantasy land NFT in a blockchain tech bro echo chamber. This needs to be real world, real fi impact documents. And so we're working with lawyers, local lawyers, to ensure that the documents we create are compliant with the local jurisdiction's land acts, the requirements for digital evidence, as well as international standards for record keeping and record preservation, so that the documents we produce as NFTs are of the highest possible quality, even higher than the systems that are in place today already. And once we've done that, our end users are able to leverage those land right NFTs for Cardano DeFi opportunities, such as applying for a mortgage with our project partners like the Empower team, lease to own opportunities, or very practically just getting loans for farm equipment and seeds. Not having be able to prove that you've got a right to land creates huge issues for marginalized rural farmers in sub-Saharan Africa, where, for example, they will not invest in long-term crops because the particular crop types, because they can't guarantee that somebody isn't going to come and claim the land underneath from them at some point in the future. Next slide.
Okay, about 1 minute left, please hurry up.
Okay, so we've got pilot projects happening in Ghana and Mozambique. Next slide. On the ground, we're working with local communities where we're leveraging traditional land rights, which allow them, in a pluralistic legal system, allows local village leaders to actually issue legitimate land right documents without having to formally go through a land title office. Next slide. We're doing detailed scholarly research and on-the-ground use case studies. There is a village there we're working with right now, and we're working also directly with the Lands Commission's office, which has approved our process and our methodology, which includes surveying and creating original geospatial data and surveying data for these communities and allowing the land parcels to become legitimate legal documents. Next slide. We are very much inspired. So this is the MVP that we've created already. So this is the view of the land administrator. Next slide. Next slide. And so this allows this app, which is right now we're looking at the web view. There's also a smartphone view. Next slide. Is now we've proven our methodology. We've through the pilot project, through the MVP. In Mozambique, we have a partner that already has done this process for 80,000 land right owners. There are 80,000 land right records ready to go onto the Landano mainnet. Next slide. And we are migrating those over. We have a number of partnerships to make sure this is going to happen, have a real effect in the real world.
Please wrap up.
Next slide. Here's our roadmap. Next slide. Here's a link to our proposal. Please vote for us. Thank you.
Excellent. That was great. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Peter? Please raise your hand.
Clint, do you want to take over time? Because I have different times going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm ready. I'm ready and roughly.
Okay.
No worries. I can do the time next. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question as well. Can I jump in? Is that all right?
Maybe let Sebastian go first, and then you'll go next.
No worries.
Okay, so as one of those people that lives in the global south, right? I know that laws for land especially can be very idiosyncratic. They depend a lot of how ownership and how traditional customs evolve in these countries, right? In Bolivia, for example, there is such a thing as communal ownership of the land. So if you have all of these different formats of how land is registered and you want to show them globally to an audience that may not be familiar with all of these idiosyncrasies, how you make sure that they are not faked or confusing or difficult to track, especially because in the past we have talked a lot about standards and how that was very necessary for NFTs on the Cardano ecosystem.
Yeah, great question. So for each jurisdiction, and even within the same country, there's some different rules and practices and regulations in place. But as you pointed out there, traditional land rights, what that means in countries like Ghana and Mozambique, there's pluralistic legal systems where the traditional common law system inherited from the colonizers has equal weight to traditional land right practices where there's a communal leader like a village chief or a family head or a clan head that gets to delegate how the communal land is organized. And that's all been done in a verbal system. And what we're doing is we're legitimizing those verbal systems. And in a lot of cases, we're dealing with people who are illiterate. So we have to have visual cues. So we have audio visual captures of the actual ceremonies. And we have a smartphone app that works with a QR code concept. So that we're trying to bring this down to the most, again, the users don't actually need to know that it's happening on a blockchain. For those that are interested and able to understand that, we have the different layers of different user types. We have land administrators, we have system administrators, we have rights holders, we have right seekers, and we are gearing the user interface. And this is one of the slides I had to go through very quickly, but we've been doing in-depth use case analysis and collaborating with actual village leaders on the ground who are want to be part of this process. And we're ensuring that that first and foremost, our requirements are driven by the end user needs, not by a bunch of white guys in the global north that say you should sprinkle some blockchain on your land right problem. We want to have this be a user-driven problem for each jurisdiction. But when we go to Bolivia, when we come back to Canada, when we go back to US, in each case, our system is designed so that we can incorporate the legal framework. We're doing a lot of academic scholarly research and working with lawyers so that we can, for each case, Landano is adaptable to the different jurisdictions and the different legal scenarios in each country. And that's already shown itself to be, for example, even within Ghana itself, we're dealing now with our pilot project is dealing with the Kamasi Land Commission Office, which is in the northern part of the country. Whereas the capital city Accra has a lot more digitized systems already and different procedures and different regulations. And then vis-a-vis Mozambique, there's parallels to how communal land is organized and how those particular village leaders can delegate land rights. But there's differences there again as well. And obviously we have to have internationalization. Each user interface has to, in Mozambique, it has to be Portuguese interface. In Ghana, the legal language is English. And when we go to Bolivia, we'll have to have Spanish. So those are all parts of the puzzle that we're working into. But Doris and I are both long-term enterprise software developers, so we have a lot of experience that we are already leveraging to come at this problem from the system administrator and developer point of view. But first and foremost, it needs to be driven by user requirements, and that's why pilot projects are so critical to us. And we have in the field teams in Ghana and Mozambique working on the ground for these.
Excellent answer. Thank you, Peter. That's very thorough. Angel, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Hey, Peter. Really like the idea. I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on your background. I'm just a little bit curious about what your background is and how you got into this situation.
Yeah, so I'm actually an archivist by trade. I have a graduate degree in archives, and I did research and development in digital archiving and digital record keeping for a number of years. I'm actually the developer of the world's two most widely deployed digital archive systems, free and open source, called Archivematica and Access to Memory. And so as archivists, we're very much concerned with protecting protecting rights and responsibilities through documentation. We do it at a national archive level. We do it at individual personal archive level. And so we have developed many standards and done a lot of research into how we can preserve digital documents, keep them accessible over multiple generations of technologies, and continue to prove that they're authentic and accurate documents. And so land documents are critical. So I myself have always been interested in blockchain. I've been like a blockchain enthusiast for almost 10 years now. I've been doing R&D as side projects for a number of years. And when Catalyst gave me the opportunity to have a funded project, I decided to switch full-time to working on in the Cardano space on Web3 solutions. and picking land rights in particular as the domain where I as an archivist can make the biggest difference. Because again, I keep coming back to this idea that we are very much focused on creating legally admissible NFTs. So the records we produce aren't just something we've created in a vacuum, is that it's actually connected to the local laws and regulations that define and specify what a land right record should look like, and who has the authority to issue those. And that's why where we tie into DIDs and verifiable credentials. But as an archivist, I'm very much concerned about helping people protect their rights and establish their rights, and doing so through valid legal documentation. And this, Doris, I actually met Doris in a Project Catalyst room where he said, hey, we should be using Cardano to handle land rights. And I was like, hey, I'm an archivist. I've been looking to do something like this for a long time. And, you know, through the Catalyst magic, we connected and got funded. And now we've got a team of over 10 people working on this. And we've got a wide, we didn't get to the slide where maybe we saw the slide where we have partnerships.
Thank you so much for that, Peter. That was great. Maybe after the session, if people want to hang around afterwards, we can keep on with this discussion, because I think this is a very important topic that we're discussing here.
I just wanted to say, Peter, congratulations on your project, and I'd like you on my podcast. I was, of course, also a reviewer of it, but not of course. It just came.
Yeah. We connected earlier in a town hall, Mihaela, and then we lost touch because I got COVID. But like, so I connected back with you on LinkedIn. So let's arrange that there. I'd love that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't want to take more from the time. Thank you.
Excellent, great connections here, guys. Okay, so next we have. Let me have a look. Yeah, Angel, it's your turn now, my friend.
Guys, I'll just give it a little 30 seconds warning when we're approaching, say 4 minutes 30.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, we can be a little bit flexible here with the time. I think everyone's willing to wait. Angel, when you're ready.
Absolutely.
Can you guys see everything fine?
Yeah, perfect. Very good.
Perfect. All right, hello everyone. We are Shelters on the Block, a social impact NFT project. So the problem we identified is that the city of Los Angeles has the highest homeless rate in the United States, and it has the second largest homeless population. The problem is multifaceted with many potential solutions. The problem we are facing is a humanitarian crisis. We have identified transitional housing programs as one potential solution to the homeless crisis. These programs keep vulnerable people off the streets, and it gives them a secure and stable place to get back on their feet. For this, we have partnered with Uncle Dave's Transitional Housing, a nonprofit organization that will be receiving the proceeds from our NFT sale. Additionally, we will also be launching an educational campaign to bring awareness on the matter. Our goal is to show that money and shelters alone won't fix the problem of homelessness, and that it takes more than that. Now I'll be explaining why we chose transitional housing as a viable solution to solve homelessness, at least in LA. Transitional housing is temporary supportive housing that attempts to help transition people from homelessness back into mainstream society. Beyond just giving people a place to stay when they have no place of their own, transitional housing is successful at fighting homelessness because it offers peer support and oversight for management. In transitional housing, individuals will have roommates who are all on a similar mission to get back into mainstream life. These roommates, along with the house managers, will often hold each other accountable to make sure that everyone does their chores, keeps their room clean, respects one another, but most importantly, that they remain sober. These may sound like small tasks, but they are important first steps into rebuilding a responsible life. Because of all the positives of transitional housing, we believe, along with many experts, that transitional housing is a key method to combat homelessness. But despite being such a necessity, there is a severe lack of enough transitional housing programs in the city of LA. Most of the funding is focused on putting these individuals who are experiencing homelessness into hotels where they won't receive the same peer support system. Here's a quick little clip of what we're doing.
I think we can't hear the sound of the clip.
It's okay. So I just kind of wanted to demonstrate the type of content that we will be putting out, which is just interviews with some of the success stories from Uncle Dave's Housing. For example, Mike here experienced homelessness and was able to transition back into mainstream society. And now he's a manager at Uncle Dave's, providing that peer support for others and encouraging others to get back on their feet. So our blockchain solution is that we have submitted our project catalyst proposal under the challenge of demonstrating and monetizing impact. We plan to carry this out by creating a new type of NFT, which we call impact NFTs. Traditionally, when you make a donation to a charity or nonprofit organization, it is difficult to trace your direct impact, but with impact NFTs, we can change this with the help of blockchain technology. Shelters on the Block will be a pioneer on this front by creating NFTs that are meant for donation first and utility second. With our project, we will be interviewing success stories of those who have overcome homelessness at one point in their life and have them share their success stories. Each of these stories will be captured in the form of an NFT, which will be linked to exclusive video interviews. Once the NFT minting period is over, we will use the funds to house 16 men for up to 5 months each. Afterwards, we will then interview the recipients of the free housing and also have them share their success stories with the community. Next, we will capture their stories in an NFT and airdrop this NFT to the mentors of the original NFTs. This airdrop NFT will also have access to exclusive content, and it will serve as proof to the donors that their donation has made real-world impact. Here's some additional utility that will come from our NFTs. There's tax deductions if you live in the US, because Uncle Dave's is a 501c3. At the end of our campaign, we want to provide our NFT holders with one redeemable physical film picture. And of course, there's the 20% royalties that Uncle Dave's will keep on receiving each time these NFTs are resold on the secondary market. So it'll be a donation.
30 seconds.
Perfect. So here's our social media. If you guys can show us some support on Ideaskill, Twitter, give us feedback. We want to keep on improving this idea. Thank you.
Excellent timing. Great proposal as well. I really love it. Can you please raise your hand if you have a question for Angel, please? If not, I'll ask some questions too.
I will start with a comment. I wanted to commend you for this project because so now, for example, yes, we've been with Charles at the border of Ukraine, Poland, and there are a lot of people in transitional housing, and they could benefit from such ideas because Charles is thinking how to actually help them and innovative ways. So I wanted to commend you for that, and now I learned something. Thank you.
No, yeah, thank you. And I think one important thing to remember is that as I've done presentations, I've learned that the homeless problem, like the crisis that's happening in Los Angeles, is much different than other places. So the approach has to be different. I would say that what's happening in Los Angeles is more of a lack of mental health institutions, and they want to solve it by just putting these people who are experiencing the situation into shelters, and they lack the emotional and the human support. But transitional housing, I believe, provides that, and that's why we really want to support organizations like that.
Excellent. Anyone else have a question for Angel? Please raise your hand or go ahead. Angel, I have a question. Yeah. I was wondering, what's the actual nominal cost then of housing someone in transitional housing, and how long do you normally expect them to be in the transitional housing until they can, find their way back into society fully and have their own housing again? Yeah,
so I can only speak for Los Angeles from what I've seen. So we were partnered also with Friends Helping Friends LA. They provided free transitional housing, but it's a little bit harder to get into. The structure is not as structured as what you can find at Uncle Dave's. Uncle Dave's is a bit more clean. It encourages more sober living, a little bit more strict. They charge $600 a month to live there. So there's a large variety, but like what I said about Uncle Dave's, I really like how they have more of that structure of making sure people are responsible, making sure people are staying sober, and they're rated as like one of the cleanest transitional housing programs in Los Angeles. I've visited some of their sites. It's very clean, it's very professional, and I really like that they have designated managers. Like I said, Mike, which kind of, it doesn't feel like you're, I would say from the perspectives of somebody who's a guest there, it almost feels like you're just living with friends, living with perhaps even family, because Mike has been through the same situation. So he's not just someone who was hired to look over the house. He's somebody who's been there and has had to get himself out of that situation as well.
Yeah, that's important.
And sorry, to answer your question, I was actually just speaking to the director. She said they have people coming in and out every day, but the average time is around 3 to 6 months, but it can vary.
Okay, and then Ben, you have a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't even a question. It was just a statement. I mean, Angel and myself have had discussions in after town hall and breakout rooms already on the project. And again, it's just such a commendable project. And it's got so much meaning, especially in the area where you're doing it. So best of luck, and you're certainly getting our vote. Thank you.
I'd like to have a chat, Angel. Contact me, please, for the podcast, but I think that's really one worth featuring.
Thank you. Appreciate this.
Excellent. Angel, I have one more question. You're using the NFTs as a sort of as like to do community good and as a force for good, and also as like to raise charity for the transitional housing. So do you have any like, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more about on your plans? Because I guess a lot of it's linked to the engagement, right? Like someone purchased the NFT because they want to contribute and they want to help, and then obviously the more engaging you can make it for that experience for them, then the more likely people are to trade these NFTs and then to contribute.
Yeah, so what is your question?
So
like, what are we doing to make it more interactive? Yeah,
so what kind of benefits can I receive as being someone who holds this NFT, like the community updates you were talking about before?
So like the interviews. So the way I see it is, if you're buying this NFT, you know you're helping somebody eventually get housing, and so what you're looking forward to is to receiving that airdrop of that NFT, where you can see the individual who is actually receiving that benefit. And then you'll also have access to those interviews of them, perhaps maybe showing gratitude, saying thank you, like this has helped me out in this way and in this form. And what we also want to help create is a community around where we can put these people onto the Web3 space, and perhaps the community themselves can help them pursue higher education, maybe find a job. So it's like kind of like a regenerative community where people are just trying to help these individuals, making connections. We've also had some ideas. This is not part of our roadmap yet, but this is something that was actually shared with me yesterday. It's just kind of an idea, is where we kind of try to set up a structure of, the first 2 months they're settling in, and by the 3rd month, we want to help them find a job, and like set up this structure and kind of airdrop these NFTs to the holders when those recipients achieve that goal, kind of to keep that engagement and to make the NFT holders feel like they're actually even making a bigger impact.
That's a great idea.
That is 5 minutes. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing. Excellent. So I think it's my turn next. So I'm just going to share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see this. Yeah, can we all see that? Oops.
Yep.
Okay, and then let me just...
it's on Zoom at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just getting it now, sorry. Here we go. Lost it. Here we go. Sorry. And then view. Full screen. Oh, is that full screen?
Not quite.
Oh.
Just expand the green.
On the top right, I think it says presentation mode.
On the top right?
Yeah, on my top right.
Okay.
That's good enough.
Is that good enough? Sorry about that, guys. I'm not really using the Mac normally myself, but I'm on it tonight. Okay, so yeah, this is about the Redeemable NFT Launch Pad. So basically, using NFTs to tokenize real-world places, items, and products and services is a new exciting area of NFT utility. And we call this tokenization of NFTs. But at the moment, there exists no app on Cardano where such NFTs can be launched and funded, and also, more importantly, redeemed for underlying asset. So for us, we've created a thing called the Redeemable NFT Launch Pad. And like I said, we're basically tokenizing real-world items, services, businesses, products, and then we're tokenizing them as NFTs for trading, and then also the redemption at the end, where you get the underlying value. So when you think about what items can be tokenized, there actually are a lot of applications already like this on other blockchains who are doing exactly this. One of them is called Tangible.store. They're on Polygon. Another one is called Noir. They're on Polkadot. And what you see normally is they want to tokenize things like wine. They want to tokenize things like beer or land or gold, etc. And I think they're really missing the big social impact that we could have here with this technology. So for me, what I'm thinking about, obviously, we're looking at products and items, supporting ESG companies, those that are using sustainable means of production, etc. But I think we can also tokenize places, like, for example, parks, trees, rainforests, marine areas. And when you think about this, what we're really doing is we're going to be funding these places. So, for example, we tokenize a park in, say, somewhere in South America, and then we sell the NFTs, and the money raised from that will be used by the park governing body to plant more trees. And then this is a way of tokenizing that communal good, and they're funding it through the Launchpad. Another idea is to support artists. So, for example, funding the development of artists' work. An artist could sell, say, 100 NFTs that give you a future royalty on their art in the future. So you buy the NFT, and then afterwards, any NFTs they sell in the future, you're getting 10%. And then obviously, from the money that was raised in the launch pad for funding those NFTs would go to the artists to give them the means to create more digital art. You know, I've spoken to a lot of digital artists recently, and they've even talked about, you know, even minting on Cardano is actually quite expensive for them. And I think by doing this way of funding their development with the Launchpad, then we can actually help people from these other countries who probably wouldn't have necessarily have the financial means to pursue their goals of being an artist. We can help them in this way. So what is a redeemable NFT? A redeemable NFT basically is an item that's backed one-to-one by a physical item, or it can even be a virtual item in the real world. And NFT issuer is the person who backs the NFT. So us ourselves at Tangent, we're not backing the NFT at all. We just create a launch pad where people can sell these new NFTs and also redeem them. So our platform is for creators, artists, and organizations, and it supports the marketing and launch of redeemable NFT projects on the Cardano blockchain. So let's look at an example here. So this is like a tokenized plant a tree offering. And Alice, she buys the NFT with some ADA through the Launchpad, and she gets six fungible tokens, which are rights to naming a tree in the park. And then she also gets one NFT that's a commemorative NFT to show that she funded the project from day one. And these NFTs and the tokens, they're all compatible with the existing infrastructure on Cardano. So it can be traded on the DEX, it can be traded on the NFT marketplace. And then finally, when Alice wants to actually name her tree, she goes back to our Launchpad, and she sends us the details. I want to name 6 trees, and these are the names for the 6 trees. We send that information to the NFT issuer, say, for example, Sao Paulo Country Park in Brazil, and they basically are the NFT issuer here who have issued the NFT, and they're using the money to plant the trees. And then they would say, for example, give Alice some tangible good here, which may be video proof of the tree planting and the naming, and they let her know she's contributed. And then finally, she'd also get another NFT from us, which we would create, and that NFT would be a certificate of contribution to the good cause that she contributed to. And then finally, these 6 rights to name a tree, those 6 tokens she had originally bought, we would lock that up into a smart contract, so it couldn't be used again. So in this way, basically, this is how she's funding the tree planting. And let me now just show you very quickly.
30 seconds.
Okay, so we've already partnered with one company, and they're a drinks company called Guilo, and they're doing a non-alcoholic beverage that we tokenized and will be redeemable. And yeah, we're trying to send it all around the world. So it'll be shipped by DHL. And this is just a proof of concept. Obviously, we have lots of other possibilities for tokenizing, like I said, projects and sustainable goods, etc., etc. And now let me just show you our app. So we've actually already built an app here. This is the front end of the app. We're still building the back end. We're 80% complete here on the farming. This is the NFT farming section you can see here. And then here is also, so that's the liquidity farm. This is the NFT farm where people can stake NFTs. And finally, this is the launch pad as well. So this is really just the front end.
Time's up.
Lastly, here's our team. This is our team. We're all working full time on this. And these are the advisors. Okay, thank you. So any questions? Please go ahead. Let me just get back to my
stop sharing screen at the top.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, Sebastian, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So since you're only providing a launchpad for connecting the people who are gonna mint the NFTs and the people who are putting the money, let's say, who's gonna handle the metadata and who's gonna handle the authentication, right? I mean, if I pay for 6 trees in Sao Paulo, I'm not gonna go to Sao Paulo and see if the 6 trees are there, right? So how's gonna happen that?
It's a really good question, Sebastian. And basically, our platform is going to be open source. We're committed to open source code, which means anyone can fork our platform and create their own NFT launchpad. But what our platform will not be is permissionless. That means it's not just going to be a platform where anyone can jump on and they can do an NFT issuance. So we're vetting all the people. So like I said, our first person who are doing the proof of concept, we'd say, is Guilo, and their multinational drinks company. They have headquarters all around the world, Japan, America, Australia. So we know they're completely legit, and we know that this is going to be a smooth process for them. But this is the proof of concept. And we have had a lot of different people reaching out at the moment. But yeah, we're in charge of vetting those organizations, and we'd only make sure that we're really communicating directly with someone in Sao Paulo and their authorized, government body who have the right to manage this area of the park, etc. So yeah, basically that falls on us to do that. And yeah, this is something we take very, very seriously. So it's not going to be for everyone. No one can just jump onto here and launch an NFT, unfortunately. But like I said, anyone can fork the code and they could use it to create another launch pad. Will, do you want to go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah, no, Clint, I just wanted to say well done on the smashing project. I think it might be really beneficial for us to connect. When I present, you might see why, in that I've just released a range of men's shirts on Cardano where an NFT is used to record transparent sourcing information. So people buy the NFT and then they've been using it to redeem and claim a shirt. So I think there's a lot of, we're thinking in a lot of the same directions. So it might be interesting to have a conversation.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for connecting here. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and I'll just put the links to the proposals already. Oh, thank you, Ben. And that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, you're the type of product that we're looking for to launch on the Launchpad. And like I said, it's not, obviously we love that you've got the tangible good there, but we also can be doing things like funding artists and like I said, funding some sort of environmental impact, like that's also things we're looking to do. So we're trying to have as many different products and services on there as possible. We've had the drink company already, a t-shirt, and then we could do some artists as well. We're very committed to the digital art scene in Cardano and funding artists in the third world and developing countries who want the means to mint, and doing things like mint parties. So we mint tokens, NFTs for free for these people. And then just going back to what you said before, Sebastian, another thing we could do, possibly we talked about this, was obviously the money is raised through our Launchpad. What we could do then is we could lock up those that finance and then slowly release it as proof of from the NFT issuer comes, after they reach certain milestones, similar to how houses or apartments are sold off plan. They kind of you pay in installments as it gets built. This is another potential way of safety mechanism here. Any other questions?
I think Peter's got his hand up.
Oh, Peter.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think there's multiple layers to what you're trying to provide a solution to that you still have to address. I agree with Sebastian that your answer, we still have to then trust. If you have one drink provider, the manufacturer, you have to trust why are they telling the truth, right? And it all boils back down to the Oracle problem. How can you trust real world data that you put on chain? I think another name for what you're doing is called synthetic assets. There's an interesting project called Indigo Protocol in our Cardano space that's tackling that as well. Projects like Veritree are a pretty high profile example in the space that are doing tree NFTs, and there's a huge part of their project is simply doing the verification and having on the ground verification. So I think simply saying, "Oh, just trust," we partner with a popular brand and the brand is trustworthy. I think you might run into problems there, and you're gonna have to like dig a little bit deeper into the so-called Oracle problem situation, right? And again, that comes back to the Oracle project I'm working on as well. OrcFacts is tackling that as well. One of the ways of doing that is triangulating data. Somebody, Will talked about the issues with wells, like having more than one source of the data, right? And different types of sources of data. And then looking at things like decentralized Oracle pools where you have more than one, you decentralize the actual validation of the data rather than saying just trust this beer manufacturer. So I think it's a really interesting project, but I think there's lots of layers to that I think would help your solution if you were able to answer those questions and help your pitch, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the great thing about the Catalyst program and the breakout rooms. We can connect and there's a lot of cross collaboration to be here. I agree 100% that if we can incorporate some decentralized Oracle into here, so we make it almost trustless, that'd be perfect. From my own experience, like I was in Bitcoin manufacturing and I was selling Bitcoin miners for many years, and I actually launched a few different USB hubs on Groupon. And basically, I kind of see our site as similar to Groupon in a way that Groupon basically partner up with these existing enterprises, and then they have a platform where they can sell their products at a discounted rate almost, and then the product gets shipped to you. And then I did have that experience myself with Groupon, and a lot
30 seconds.
Was like meeting up with I had to meet with Groupon, and I had to show them my product, I had to show them like the packaging and all this stuff on my website, etc., before they were like, okay, you can be approved to sell your product on Groupon. So I do have some experience with that, and also with trading and courier, etc. But the redemption side of it really is, like you said, the most important thing, and this is why we've been so scared to make it trustless. But yeah, I love the idea about the Oracle. So I mean, I'm going to save your email and let's keep in touch and we can communicate more.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and right now I'm working with ADAO and Snapbrilla, and we've actually done some bounties for the code behind this project, and they're live on Snapbrilla's MVP, which got funded in round 8. So if anyone wants to go there, there's reward for ADA tokens. Thank you very much. So that's it from me. So next we have Will. Will is coming here to share his project as well. And I think that will be the last sharing for today. So Will, are you ready to go?
Yeah, let me just share my screen.
Sorry for that. Sebastian as well. Sebastian afterwards.
Oh, Sebastian's next. Sorry, Sebastian's next. No, sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Sebastian, when you're ready.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for accommodating me. So basically, what I'm going to show is the centralized newsletter service. So up to this day, written media still is the main way news are distributed across the internet and across society. But they are under attack at the moment because precisely that facility to distributed news, right? So news sites that distributed information are very censorship prone, and they have ambiguous terms of service that you never know if you're following or you're not following. They have centralized control both in the distribution and the process of payments, so they can shut you down on both sides. And they can even withhold your payments, right? So if you have any balance, they can refuse to give you the money, and basically you'll be in a legal protected long battle, right? And they block content based on their own criteria. So the idea is to create a decentralized newsletter service that would solve all of these problems using NFTs to access information, but not as a way to distribute the media, right? So instead, what it would happen is that the NFT, and especially the meeting ID, would sit there in your wallet. And when you're trying to access a blog of a writer you're following or a news person or whatever, the site will check your wallet, see if you have the NFT, and give you access to the content. Now, if you don't have the NFT, you obviously have the option to buy it and get in that way a subscription. The NFTs will expire after a certain time, right? So you buy subscriptions for like 6 months, 1 year, whatever. And obviously there will be discounts for longer times or things like that. And this also would eliminate the need for passwords, right? So the token would actually be what is blocking the content. So with the token you can access, so there is no need to give your ID or your information to a central database that can be compromised. The second idea is the centralizing payment. So we at NFTDAO have created a decentralized payment solution that we call EasyPay that is able to connect the Cardano ledger with any payment processor out there. We have it connected to PayPal and Stripe and Venmo. So any journalists that they are not perhaps the most technological savvy people in the world and they don't want to deal with the blockchain, they just want to get their payments as they used to over PayPal or over Stripe. They can do that. They connect the Cardano ledger with that and they can still get their payments as they always did. So NFTDAO, why us? We have NFT development experience. We already created EasyPay and we have released our metadata standards in our GitHub and in CIP 25. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing so much. That was really great, Sebastian. Does anyone have some questions for Sebastian? Please just raise your hand.
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, no, Sebastian, really cool idea. I think much needed. Those that control the information gateways control the world. So yeah, it's good to break out of that. One of the things brings to mind is Substack as being a sort of a newer newsletter platform, I guess you say. One of the things I think that they do is some form of legal protection for their journalists against people just filing libel claims about them to shut them up. Have you looked into that at all, or will people be publishing in a sort of a pseudonymous form? Just, wanted to know what you think on that.
I mean, I think journalists benefit most where they're using their own identity, right? Because they have to build a brand, right? Sadly, it's a market and you need to build a brand in a market. So I think I studied the Substack model. I think they have done amazing things. Like you said, they offer legal protection. They have refused censorship claims by the United States governments or Russia and several other powerful actors. But that has created a lot of pressure on Substack, right? So at the moment, they have like 4 or 5 legal battles at the moment, and that's draining them quite a lot. And who knows how long they're going to last, right? But in my service, since everything is decentralized and I don't control who are the subscribers, right? It's just a bunch of NFT address. I can just give the NFT address and say, okay, you look for them, right? Not my problem.
Got it. So you're solving that problem by you not actually knowing the identity, by the fact that, yeah, brilliant, cool.
Excellent. That's a great question and great response. Does anyone else?
The Satoshi of news, yes.
Who knows?
Does anyone else have any more questions for Sebastian?
I'd like to be in touch also for the podcast.
Awesome. I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you.
Excellent. Sebastian, so what were you thinking when you came up with this idea?
Actually, token gating is a concept that comes sadly from the Ethereum ecosystem, right? Almost everything comes from Ethereum. And then it is used for content creators who want to distribute their images. And yes, most of the time are they erotic in nature, right? You cannot escape that. So when I look at that model and I saw that the main benefit the people posting that type of content is that since they don't have to deal with a database with the subscriptions of the people buying that stuff, then the people feel more comfortable engaging with the system. And I thought that would be very useful in a information sharing way, because when you let's say I have a Substack account, right, and I have been subscribed to several writers there, right? So for example, man, I just forgot his name. The guy that broke the Edward Snowden. I forget his name. Anyway, Glenn Greenwald, right? So I've been subscribed from him for a number of years, and there was actually a news that the State Department of the United States was following people or accounts that were subscribed to his Substack, right? And now I am part of a database somewhere because I just read his stuff that he writes, right? I don't like that.
Wow, you're a dangerous individual on the watch list. Yeah, I mean, this is
for some people,
yeah.
not for us. Yes.
I mean, another, you're a freedom fighter for us. So, you know, obviously this is outrageous that governments have this ability to persecute people in this way. So anything that we can do to give power back to, you know, honest people who are content driven and content distributors, I think this is really positive for society, right? Sebastian,
awesome.
could you just finish off quickly and tell us a little bit about your background as well?
Right, so I studied economics in university, right? And I was working for the government in 2009, and there was a 2019, sorry, and there was a coup in my country. So I obviously exited the government. And for 2 months, I was like, what do I do? How do I get a job, right? Obviously, the government was not going to hire me because I came from the past government. And that's when the pandemic started hitting Bolivia. So the private sector was shut. So I always had an interest for blockchain. So the first thing I did is just write a bunch of blogs, asking them if they needed writers. A few answered me. At first, I had to work for free, right, until I built a portfolio. And with that, I started applying for paid positions. And from there, I got more involved. And I found out about the Murgo Academy, that they were giving classes on blockchain, on Cardano. So I joined that, and I started learning about the technology. And after a year of studying with them, I became one of their instructors, right? So now I am part of the staff of the Murgo Academy. And from there, I obviously found out about Project Catalyst and became involved in proposing and in assessing and basically being in every role in Catalyst.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I think one of our...
I will ask that question for the podcast as well. It's a great story.
It's great, right?
Thank you.
I mean, I think one of our coders, Sydney's on your Emergo course, and he speaks very highly of you. I mean, obviously, like you said, you know, in the dynamic world we're living at the moment, where things are shifting all the time, we need transparency and blockchain tech more than ever now. So thank you so much for being here today. We're really honored. So I think next we have Will, and then after that we have one more extra guest, and that's Dylan. So let's go with Will first. Thank you, please.
Okay, let me just do this. Desktop one, share. Okay, hopefully, can you see a screen which says Origin Thread? Wicked.
Yes.
Yep. So my name's Will.
Yes.
From Bristol in the UK. I am the founder of a brand called Origin Thread, and our proposal for Fund 9 is supply chain transparency, fungible tokens, and non-fungible tokens. So the problem we're really looking to solve, our problem statement, is that damaging sourcing methods are normal in the fashion industry. Human lives and natural resources are destroyed for the sake of cheap clothes. Without increased transparency, things are never going to change. So the summary of our solution is to use Cardano to tokenize every chain for full transparency. We're going to build an MVP to demonstrate this use case, and then also document and share the methodology to increase adoption. So a bit about us. Origin Thread incorporated as a limited company in the UK in 2021, September. And we're exploring how NFTs can be used to connect sustainably minded customers with how their clothes are made. Our mission is to demonstrate how the blockchain can be used to bring transparency to garment supply chains, and importantly, to champion the work of textile artisans from around the world. On the right of the screen, you'll see our MVP. This is a shirt which has just gone on sale in the last 2 weeks. It's our most basic implementation of an NFT connected shirt. So when you scan the tag on the shirt, you'll see all of the supply chain information recorded on chain. So every single one of the invoices to every single one of the suppliers, every single part of the supply chain is stored in that NFT. There's a video of the shirt's creation. So that shirt's actually hand printed in a village called Gaarderen in India. So there's a video of that. So people bought those, and then they used them. They bought the NFT, and then they used the NFT to claim delivery of the shirt. So they're in production at the moment. Hopefully, if timelines work, those will be done next week and going out to customers. So you might ask yourself, why are you chasing this down for the last year? Well, what's so important about clothing? Well, customers have no connection to how their clothes are made. And because of the lack of verifiable sourcing information, fashion supply chains are destructive by default. Some numbers on this: $2 to $3 billion of pesticide is sprayed on cotton every year. 16% of the world's pesticide use. It takes 2,700 liters of water to produce the cotton for a non-organic t-shirt. For an organic t-shirt, it's 243 liters. 1 to 3% of agricultural workers worldwide suffer from pesticide poisoning. 2% of workers worldwide are paid a living wage, and organic cotton certificate fraud is rife across the globe. Okay, here's the most niche meme you've ever seen: information asymmetry and the lemons problem. This is fundamentally what I think the blockchain solves. So in fashion, buyers have no knowledge of how their clothes are made, but brands do. This is called an information asymmetry, two partners in the trade not having the same access to information. Now, the market for 1970s economics paper, and they illustrate this point using secondhand car sales. So illustrate information asymmetries. According to the paper, buyers can't effectively evaluate the quality of a secondhand car. I don't know if you've ever bought a secondhand car. They don't really inspire trust, a lot of those guys. You're unable to tell the difference between a peach and a lemon. So what you end up doing is you find what you think is an average price between a peach and a lemon, and that's the price you're willing to pay. What this means is sellers are incentivized to pass off low quality goods as high quality ones. Customers don't know the difference, and this leads to higher quality goods being driven from the market. Now, in fashion, this creates incentives for brands to greenwash, basically to say, hey, here's some sustainable claims that we've made. We're not actually going to do them because that's expensive, and customers aren't willing to pay because they don't know the difference. This ultimately destroys the market for sustainable products, and the destructive cycles continues. If only there was some sort of decentralized ledger where you could write and record information on. Enter our Fund 9 proposal. Tokenized supply chains. So when you think about it, you can split every aspect of a supply chain into something on the blockchain. So our Fund 9 proposal sets out a plan to research, develop, and launch a minimum viable implementation of a tokenized supply chain on Cardano. So supply chains across pretty much everything can be sort of extracted to 4 elements. You've got materials and components, processes, suppliers, locations. Each of those can be represented, shared, and traced on chain. So without getting into too much of the secret sauce, using the method of burning and minting tokens when a raw material is transformed, you can track products all the way through the supply chain. So one of the main problems you have at the moment is you say, okay, was that 30 seconds? Yeah, great. There's some information there, read the proposal. What we're going to do, people are at Cardano events. It would be lovely to have a real world demonstration of this. So the tokenization of this will end up in this t-shirt. It's got a pocket with 2 pens for Charles to keep his pens in. It's going to be blue so everyone can see who we are. Hand printed in India, 500 of those will be the end result with a fully transparent supply chain with every stage tokenized. Roadmap, the big one, many products could do with sustainable transparent supply chain. By demonstrating how to work on Cardano, we open the door for further adoption. And yeah, get in touch there.
Excellent. Wow, that was a great sharing there. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Please raise your hand. If there's no question, oh, here we go. Sebastian, do you want to go first?
I mean, supply chains are very complicated, right? Sometimes there could be delays, not because anyone is malicious or a bad actor, but because there is an accident or a problem or something unforeseen like that. So how can you make sure that when you are tracking, any anomalies that come out are not because something wrong happened, but because just some accident happened?
So great question. I guess it might help to answer that by looking a bit further into what we actually mean by tracking. So tracking is seeing how materials are transformed across the supply chain. So not just the physical location, but actually I'm wearing an organic cotton t-shirt at the moment. What is the fabric that comes from? What is the yarn which is made into that fabric? And what is the organic cotton which goes into that? Being able to trace it across all of those issues. The solutions look at this point. Again, this is the first way of representing that. It's a shame the guy's left. The guy who kept talking about oracles, I would have loved to have had his thoughts on this. But yeah, does that get towards answering your question?
Yeah. But yeah, I think we will need to get Peter's take on it, right? He's the oracle guy.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's it. I heard him talking about it, and that's the next stage of implementation. So this first MVP is simply just to show what it would look like, how that would work, how to research that. In time, obviously, you need standards, you need ways of verifying information which is applied to it. You need all of these things. The triangulation point he made was super. There's actually a business near here in Bristol which is doing some interesting stuff on kind of testing of materials to see if they're organic or not. So I guess kind of triangulating these things would be useful too.
I put his LinkedIn in the chat of Peter. If you want.
Yeah, I think Peter would be the expert on here to comment on this. I have one question as well. I was just wondering, so basically, this data would be a QR code that you scan on the garment. Is that correct?
Yeah, no. So how it works on the first one and how it works on this, we're using a QR code, but also with an NFC tag inside.
Yes.
Because not everyone's new phone to be able to write and read QR codes, because I've been insisting on continuing with the iPhone SE, the best one made. But yeah, it has the QR code and it also has the NFC. Basically, the QR code is printed. It's kind of, you can contain less information on it. That's actually on our first shirt, just a link to that page on the website. And then, yeah, with the NFC tag, which we're putting asset ID, link to pool PM on asset ID, and also the link to that asset on our website. But the the NFC tag's way better because it has to be light, it has to be all kinds of good things to read those QR codes effectively, and it just doesn't work. So
yeah, I think with the tag that you scan instead, that can contain a lot more data. I think you should look into a company called VeChain. They actually specialize in lots of logistical sourcing, etc. And they're a fork of Ethereum, and set up by like a Louis Vuitton ex-CEO or ex-director.
No, they've done some interesting stuff, but one of the key, I think, design advantages of Cardano is the native assets. So actually being able to mint and burn. So you think when you have raw cotton being turned into cotton yarn is the first stage of the process. You actually burn the raw cotton tokens. You reference the burn transaction and reference the mint transaction of that, which is actually what contains the metadata. So then you're not able to double spend those, and you still get the trace all the way through the different processes. And what I should say with this as well is, if you say, okay, what's the growth strategy for this, is you can move through supply chain. So once one supplier is onboarded into using this method, he can then use that same for every other customer that he uses. They don't need to maintain separate records. So it's kind of like a modular thing, if that makes sense.
Got you. And would that be like an on-chain burn, or would you be like a smart?
Yeah, exactly that. So again, in the first implementation, we're just going to do it all manually, just because it's faster to do it for me than writing the smart contracts. I haven't done the Plutus Pioneers course yet, so I wouldn't be able to hack it at this point. But yeah, then in time, really what we're starting to think with this is, okay, how can you scale this beyond just one t-shirt brand? Because this is a great way of getting this out into the world, and having Origin Thread as a business which you can kind of innovate with, because it's a small business, you can move quickly, you can try different stuff out. Whereas if I went to Nike and I was like, hey, let's make this supply chain transparent, they probably would have a heart attack. So it's a way of doing that. But yeah, fundamentally, I'm actually setting up another company which is called tracker.xyz, so TRCCR.xyz, and that's looking to how can we apply this method that we're building here more broadly, because that's really where the use case comes. One individual clothing brand, I mean, even if you do super well in 10 years, you're doing what, like millions of pounds of revenue, as opposed to GOTS, which is Global Organic Textile Standards. 70% of their cotton in India, they reckon, is fraudulent. So, okay, how can you, once you've demonstrated this implementation, how can you talk to organizations like that? In the UK, the British Wool Council, for example, are just moving to a sort of a traceable model, but using Web2.
Sorry, guys, that is 6 minutes almost. Apologies for the question.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that because I was waiting for the answer to finish. Just wanted to say that supply chain transparency now is being written in law, and I think whatever you're developing here, if I can call it a product, or anyway, it's amazing, and it's gonna take off. It's an amazing project. Very innovative, and I'd like to be in touch because I'm involved in that supply chain transparency law. So I will.
Is this the one in Germany? Someone sent me an email about this the other day saying, had I been in touch with like the German Home Office? And I said, no, I haven't yet been in touch with the German Home
I'm with the World Economic Forum, and there in Davos this year, it was launched, this kind of a movement with big companies, because you mentioned Nike. They were not there, others were there, but we'll take this offline.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Great sharing, Will, and we'd love to have, like you said, some cross collaboration here. Like we've built the NFT Launchpad for people like you. So do like, I think
with much blood, sweat, and tears, I managed to figure out myself. So I think what you're doing there is amazing, because I think every brand's going to do this fundamentally. I think every brand is going to want to share information in a new way, ultimately share value in a new way, and people such as yourself who can make it easy for them to do that. I mean, it's fantastic.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, let's link up by email. So now we're on to Dylan. It's your turn to share. Thank you for being so patient and waiting.
Thank you for having me. So yeah, I am Dylan. I'm CEO of Algae Token. I have a degree in information systems, and then I moved to chemical engineering. I was looking for solutions to global fuel problems, and looking into that more, I was looking at biofuels, and then that goes deeper to where we're actually running out of fuel and food for the planet. So I was looking for a solution for both, and also trying to deal with the climate. Eventually found the solution to all of these. So Algae Token just aims to provide physical solutions to food, fuel, feedstock, and climate issues. Using blockchain technology, building dApps and smart contract to initiate the creation of DAO, offering sustainable products and services via Web3 technology. So the team consists of information system experts, microbiologists, chemical engineers with legal experts, and digital security advisors. We've also got the development support from Genius X, Genius Yield. We've had 15 years experience setting up algae farms around the world. So we're currently all working at a university at a pilot plant, all off the grid. And we are leaders in the research in the world. So why algae? Okay, so algae is the biggest converter of CO2 to oxygen on the planet, far more than trees. So it helps reduce global warming. If we can actively get the CO2 out of the atmosphere and feed it to the algae, we'll be reducing the climate issues. Helping to end malnutrition, it's an extremely good source of protein. Instead of cutting down the Brazilian forest to plant soy, we can grow algae and get higher quantities, higher yields of protein. And this is not competing with agricultural water or land. So we can make plastics, cosmetics, biofertilizers, or your omega oils from the fish oils. They come from the algae. So we can grow the algae and extract those oils, so they're highly nutritional values. And most people on the planet don't actually know how much they're missing out on these vitamins and nutrients that we need. It's going to be a ginormous industry. So we've got 6 catalyst proposals that go from Algae Token, a sustainable future, profitable integration, DAO development, ESG reporting, legal and financial standards, and sustainable ecosystem hub. So that's regarding education. We directly cover, I think, 14 of the SDGs out of the 17. One of the most sustainable sort of projects you can possibly do on the planet. We're looking to onboard more people and educate people on these benefits to their health, to feeding feedstock, to reducing the climate change issues. So we're looking at not only selling products where we can, but also carbon credits. We're looking to get like a net zero outcome for Cardano this way. Looking at marketplaces and supply chain tracking, that's one of the huge things. So that's been covered here. So I think there's a lot of good opportunity there for collaboration. It's fantastic what some people are doing. I I can talk more about anything with this. It's nearly 6 in the morning here, so I'm getting pretty tired. But I can just open up now to any questions for anyone.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. That was really great. Who wants to ask a question first? Just raise your hand or jump in. Okay, let's have Will first this time, please. Go ahead, Will.
Hey, Dylan, I actually read this on Idea Scale quite a while back, and I was quite excited about it. But one of the things I didn't fully understand was how the blockchain links into it. I might have missed that bit, but could you just give a bit more information on that?
Yep. Okay. So we've had to. This is one of the biggest issues with us, the regulation and legislation of standards, how we create the legal entities. So what we're currently looking at doing is having an asset token and a utility token. So the utility token does all the services for the products. It's basically the supply chain tracking, quality assurance through an Oracle API, and also governance. They'll sort of be the retailer for that, but we want that supply chain tracking, and we also want to be able to use sort of data from the processes to be able to quality control and improve those. So it opens up to a marketplace, to governance, to supply chain tracking, to quality assurance, and there's multiple more uses we can use there in finance and internally on the blockchain, which will be implemented over time, and creating a DAO, so control gets more and more decentralized of these projects. So that's the idea for that.
No, cool. Good luck to you. I mean, it's something I'd never thought about Algae particularly before until I read your proposal. But then I thought, oh wow, okay, you're on.
This is why, that educational aspect of it is so important.
Superb. And Sebastian, you're next.
You mentioned that right, the soybeans and the Amazon deforestation. Most of the soybean actually goes to feed livestock, right? So would algae serve the same purpose?
That's right. We can grow algae, or we can grow duckweed. Duckweed's another fantastic source of protein for that. And yet again, we're not using agricultural land or water. So for instance, I think some of the algae species we're growing, like it doubles overnight, the fastest growing plant on the planet. 70 times more protein can be grown in the space over the time frame than soy. So extremely product intense. It's just doing the right science and process behind that. We've got a lot of experiences setting up all around the world, so that's something we're experts in, and we run pilot plants and do all the research at universities to support that. So sort of the technology's caught up to the science now, and we're able to do these economically valuable sort of projects that also have huge social impact advantages.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. One last question from me then. I just saw that you had like 5 or 6 different proposals there. So is there like a plan? Are you capable of, if all these proposals get funding, would that be an issue for you? Or if some of them didn't get funding?
No, if they all get funding, it'll be great. I mean, the time-wise, we've set out ways so we're capable of actually managing all of these. All of those steps we plan on implementing. So it's just a time scale. Obviously, getting funding just fast tracks things to be able to be happened before investments. So yeah.
So they're all compartmentalized kind of thing, isn't it? So
they are. They're all separated into their own parts. So we've tried not to have many overlaps, and that's why we just haven't come in with sort of one proposal asking for everything. We've got different sections there, like ESG reporting and validation. That's very different to sort of creating legal entities and token classifications, or working on the DAO section, or another one, the product integration on what smart like contracts are required for that and the development.
And then Will, do you want to ask one more question or?
Yeah, not a question, just a tip off. There's a lady called Izat. She has a fund in like the legal. She has a proposal in the legal part of this, or Fund 9, and she's actually setting up. She used to be in charge of tax law for Maersk, and she's setting up a legal partnership to focus on just these issues. So she might be a really good person to talk to.
I know. I think I need to speak to her as well. We've got an absolutely fantastic crypto lawyer here in Australia, and we're also dealing with experts in Switzerland. But I think the more people you discuss things with, the more you learn, and the more of these hurdles and barriers can get crossed. So yeah, it's a great idea.
My pleasure.
The data is there on the chat. I put it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Big believer in the power of spirulina here. So good luck, Dylan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is one of the benefits of Catalyst, like the networking, etc. I think it's really great we're all here and we're sharing ideas and connecting. So yeah, best of luck to everybody who's been here tonight. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a cracking room. You guys, great to connect.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I'll stop recording now then, and I think this breakout room's finished. There's a few more going on if you guys want to go in there. So thank you very much. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.